Asterisk, the story begins with a boy named Riki, who was sentenced to 10 years for murder. If this had been an ordinary prison, the sentence might have simply been a matter of passing time counting days, watching years go by, and eventually walking out. But the problem was, this was no ordinary prison. This was a prison of the future, a facility built after 2001, about which the outside world knew only half the truth. Even governments didn't know what really went on behind its walls. Here, there was no lonely the system, and the system meant that no mistake was forgiven. A bus filled with prisoners slowly passes through heavy checkpoints, entering the maximum security zone. Tall walls, strict surveillance, and a silence so heavy it feels like a weight on your chest surround them. From the outside, it looks like any other private prison. But once inside, it becomes clear that everything is different. One by one, prisoners are taken off the bus. Fear, exhaustion, and helplessness are visible on every face. Some stand with heads down. Some don't even dare to look around. Then, among the crowd, one prisoner stands out. Unlike the other, he exudes neither fear nor weakness. Ow. His eyes are filled with a strange mix of anger and stubbornness. This is Riki. Guards shout constantly, barking orders, but Riki ignores them all. He walks straight through the metal detector. The machine suddenly screams loudly. The entire hall freezes. Guards go on high alert, weapons drawn. But Riki just smiles slightly and says, "I keep this as a reminder. As long as I'm alive, they'll stay with me." At that moment, it becomes clear this boy is no ordinary prisoner. He carries a strength born of pain, more like a weapon than a man. The scene shifts. In a corner, an old prisoner sits, surrounded by a few thugs. They had destroyed his wooden train, a project he had painstakingly built for his son. The other prisoners stand silently, watching, as if this is a daily spectacle. Seeing his broken train, something inside the old man snaps. Enraged, he grabs a nearby wood slicer to attack, but Samuel intervenes. In an instant, he grabs the old man and strikes his face with the slicer, peeling flesh away. Screams echo through the block. Guards rush in. Samuel is about to move further when someone trips him. He loses balance and falls onto spikes, writhing in pain. His comrades know exactly who did it. No one dares to challenge Riki. They lift their boss and rush him toward the doctor, leaving the old man like a burden, beaten and broken. That very night, the humiliation and pain drive him to take his own life. Riki sits quietly in his cell, witnessing everything. When the guards drag the corpse away, he steps forward and says in a cold voice, "He's dead. At least let him be taken peacefully." The anger inside him erupts. Alone, he practices kung fu with storm-like speed and precision. Every move reflects his pain and rage. He realizes that to survive in this prison, he must fight every day or suffer the same fate he just witnessed. The next day, Matt Dragon is brought out for the first time. A dangerous, insatiable man, kept in isolation because he once devoured the warden's horse. Initially, Riki doesn't want to fight, but he soon learns that Matt Dragon was sent, specifically to kill him. Without hesitation, Riki strikes Dragon in the stomach with such force that everything inside him seems to erupt. Dragon's screams echo throughout the area. Guards rush in, but are too late to save Samuel. Riki's task is complete. No one dares to stop him. And yet, after all this, Riki surrenders quietly, offering no resistance. He is offered a place in the prison gang promises of power, protection, and prestige. Riki refuses without looking back. He doesn't need anyone's favor. The brutal punch he delivered has shifted the bullets lodged in his chest, causing pain with every breath, but his face shows not a single flinch. The story flashes back to the past. Young Riki is seen visiting his parents' graves in high school. A stranger is already there, paying respects. The stranger leaves, but keeps observing Riki from a distance. The time comes for him to reveal himself. He introduces himself as Riki's uncle. He promises to teach Riki what it takes to become a great fighter. Riki demonstrates a few moves, but his uncle wisely stops him. He explains that strength alone isn't enough. Control over both mind and body is essential. Training begins. Days, weeks, months pass. Riki grows so strong that he can break massive stones with his bare hands. Pain becomes a voice that drives him to greater strength. Back in the present, the warden sits in his office, having a guard read Riki's report. It states that Riki committed murder, had no family or acquaintances, and is extremely dangerous, hence his placement in high security. But a mystery remains. There is no record of the past 2 years. The warden questions him, raising his voice, but Riki remains silent. Eventually, the warden pulls out an envelope with a photograph, crushes it in his hands and tears it apart. Riki loses his patience. With one hand, he smashes the table in two. The warden panics and fires a gun at him. But Riki deflects the bullet with his hand. Could have killed the warden, but he doesn't. He leaves a final warning and walks away. Later, Riki sits in his cell, softly playing a tune. A guard enters, harshly warning him that if he plays it again, he will break the flute. Riki stays silent, but the melody continues to echo in his mind. He promised that he wouldn't do it again, but their hearts weren't softened. One of them picked up a wooden saw, stepping forward to tear him into pieces. Suddenly, Narumi appeared. He stepped forward, his voice cold, reminding everyone of the rules. No one will be killed here without his consent. This is his prison. These are his rules. But Andrew, holding a weapon, openly defied him. Taunting, he said, "Samuel broke the rules. You let him go. So why all this now?" Narumi didn't like that. He felt Andrew was humiliating him in front of everyone. The next instant, there was no time for anyone to react. Narumi grabbed the wooden saw and slammed it directly into Andrew's face. Blood spattered. Cyclops, standing at a distance, watched everything. There was no fear on his face, only calculation. A short while later, Cyclops met Narumi and said bluntly, "If this continues, every cell will produce another Riki. You won't be able to control anyone. There's only one solution. Eliminate Riki. The rest will fall in line." Narumi descended to the ground. Andrew was tied to a massive cross in front of everyone, meant to spread fear. Narumi challenged Riki to a fight. Riki prepared, but he made one condition. First, release Andrew. Narumi wasn't given orders for negotiation. He lunged at Riki without hesitation. The fight began, and chaos erupted. Taking advantage of the moment, Narumi struck Riki in the eyes. Darkness enveloped him. Then, with another brutal move, he slashed the tendons in Riki's hand. Blood gushed. Yet the prisoners on the ground started cheering for Riki. Riki didn't back down. He broke a nearby pipeline, using the rushing water to wash his eyes. Everything became clear. He tied the severed tendons together as if the pain didn't matter. Seeing this, Narumi internally broke. He realized he could no longer win. In despair, he tried to stab himself in the stomach. Riki attempted to stop him, but Narumi, in madness, tried to wrap his intestines around Riki's neck. That moment, something changed in Riki's eyes. With one final blow, he smashed Narumi's skull to pieces. The fight was over. Riki freed Andrew from the cross. But then, another prisoner's head was crushed. Panic spread. Terrified, all prisoners hid behind Riki, hoping he would fight for them, but Riki refused. There was no satisfaction on his face, only regret. He realized too much blood had already been spilled because of him. He would not become a weapon for anyone, especially not for a warden who expected obedience like a trained dog. Meanwhile, Narumi's adopted son, Alan, was seen. It's broken inside by his father's death. He once heard Riki playing a tune on a leaf. Coming closer, he noticed the truth. His tongue had been cut. Riki felt deeply for him. He gifted Alan a flute, playable even without a tongue. In return, Alan gave Riki some seeds. Riki, surprised, asked, "Where did you get these? Growing them is illegal." Alan looked at him not with fear, but with a hidden secret. He revealed the dark truth of the prison. Behind the four walls, another world thrived. The OPM drug farm, a dangerous substance, was generating billions in profit. Now, knowing the truth, Riki was no longer just a prisoner, he was a threat. The three captains quietly held a meeting. The question, what to do with Riki? Wangchuk summoned Alan, trying to manipulate him, saying Riki killed his father, and now it was time for revenge. But Alan refused, and that mistake became his last. In rage, Wangchuk killed him, dragging the body like garbage onto the ground. Prisoners gathered at the scene. Riki arrived moments later. His eyes were silent, not angry. Suddenly, fire alarms blared throughout the prison. Chaos erupted. In the confusion, Wangchuk watched the entire OPM farm burn to ashes, years of labor, money, and power destroyed. His rage skyrocketed. Cyclops received news that the Warden would arrive the next day, a punishment in itself. Riki quickly recovered from his attack. Wang Chuk was shocked. It seemed impossible. The plan was set. Riki had to die that night. A man drove sharp needles into Riki's body, encasing him in cement like a sealed sack of flour. Just as the task was nearly complete, an announcement blared: any prisoner not in their cell would be shot. Guards opened fire. Riki narrowly escaped, breaking through the iron gates. He didn't just save himself, he also saved Kitama. When the Warden learned Riki was alive, he was shattered. His plan had failed again. Hours later, the cement around Riki hardened, leaving him like a stone statue, falling from a height. Under the scorching sun, guards eventually grew tired. Then a car arrived. Everyone went on high alert. The Warden appeared with his insolent son. He demanded from Cyclops what had happened in his absence. Cyclops, sweating, could only say some prisoners rebelled. We were forced to kill a few. The Warden steadied himself, but on learning that the opium farm had burned, he suffered a heart attack. Cyclops administered medicine to save him. The Warden's rage remained. It could only end with Riki's death. As the Warden arrived, Riki broke the thick cement encasing him. In one move, he advanced and grabbed the Warden's neck. He was about to kill him when Kitama struck Riki with full force, sending him flying. Before he could recover, Kitama tried to tear his arms apart. But Riki counterattacked, delivering a single punch that shattered Kitama's jaw like a watermelon. Blood and screams filled the air. Seeing Kitama fall, the Warden panicked and pressed a button. The prison roof began descending, a massive hydraulic press. Riki struggled with all his strength, but his body was already battered from previous fights. 8. The Warden fired a stun gun from above 100,000 volts. Riki writhed, but his rage only intensified. In this frenzy, the Warden forgot one thing. Riki survived. But Kitama was crushed under the press. Silence fell. Riki advanced on the Warden, eyes filled with only one intent, but the Warden pressed another button. The floor opened, dropping Riki into a deep pit. Heavy chains fell, binding him completely. The Warden ordered the prisoners, take him alive and bury him. Some stepped forward, others refused. Those who resisted were shot immediately. Blood spread, fear engulfed the area. But this was a ruse. The Warden knew no one could survive long without food or water. A pipe was inserted to Riki's mouth so he could breathe, and he was buried alive. Days passed. Prisoners inside began to break. Suddenly news spread. Riki was alive. A wave of hope ran through the prison. Nearby, a dog wandered. Wang killed it, stuffing its liver into the pipe to cut Riki's oxygen. She wanted this story to end here. The story flashes back to a horrifying memory. Some men had tried to assault. A girl, Miss High. She managed to escape, but the terror was so deep she jumped from the roof, ending her life. Learning the truth, Riki's inner world shattered. He didn't just become a fighter that day. He became a burning force, unstoppable. That day, he decided no injustice would remain unpunished. 7 days passed inside the prison. Everyone believed only a corpse would emerge. The Warden ordered the digging. When Riki was pulled from the soil, everyone froze. His pulse was alive, his breathing steady, as if even death feared him. He was quickly returned to captivity. The Warden reopened his file. It's time he noticed missing details. "What are you hiding?" he demanded. Riki's body was battered from torture, but his eyes remained silent. Yomi understood he wouldn't speak. She shoved shards of blades into his mouth, slapping him repeatedly. Blood flowed, but Riki remained silent, enduring the pain without yielding. That night, a prisoner quietly brought him some food, bread, and water. Riki regained a bit of strength. But the kindness didn't last. A prison informant reported it, and cyborg guards killed the helper. Riki's rage exploded. When the cyborg appeared before him, Riki attacked relentlessly. The cyborg barely escaped, chased by other prisoners. Meanwhile, the Warden was inspecting the prison. He overheard a prisoner speaking ill of his son immediately. The prisoner's hands were cut off. The Warden ordered a special explosive bullet fired at Riki. Quick thinking. Riki pulled the cyborg in front of him, using it as a shield. The bullets tore through the cyborg, which exploded into pieces. Wong advanced, striking him repeatedly. Riki retaliated, breaking her legs. She fell writhing in pain. Another captain panicked and ran, but the warden stopped him, sending him to his superior. Now only two stood on the ground, the warden and Riki. The warden shouted to guards, "Take my son away!" Once he left, Riki struck the warden with a punch, sending him flying. But then the warden's form changed. He became a monstrous being. His strength multiplied. He attacked relentlessly.
Out.
Riki was battered, struggling to breathe, body failing. Then his uncle's words echoed, "Every monster has a weakness." Riki's eyes fell on a meat grinder. Seizing the moment, he dragged the warden into it. Flesh and blood flew everywhere. The room turned red. The warden tried to pull Riki in, but Riki held firm, inch by inch, until the warden was completely inside the grinder. Moments later, everything was over. Outside, only the warden's severed fist remained, which Riki picked up. Elsewhere in the prison, guards and prisoners fought chaotically. Riki arrived, shouting loudly, "The warden is dead! You are all free!" Silence fell for a moment. Then disbelief and hope returned to the prisoners' faces. Riki advanced, breaking through thick prison walls. One by one, the walls crumbled. Sunlight poured in. After years, the prisoners finally had a path to freedom. Riki glanced back once at the prison that tried to take everything from him. Without a word, he moved forward.